Hey guys, I just want to revisit this anorexia is a choice debate. um, I've come to this realization, and it's telling. So far, the only people I've come across who want to claim this disease is not a disease and is a choice are people who don't have it. I'm talking like general population. I'm not talking about clinicians here. And it's really upsetting how deep this willful ignorance is persisting. I did a video on this a couple months ago in response to a rather uninformed and mildly insulting video somebody made. I have my own issues medically, and having your suffering or some significant struggle dismissed as, oh, you chose this, is so damaging. Oh my god, it's so damaging. You're basically blaming people who are really sick, and it's not cool, and the reason I say it's willful ignorance, we have so much clinical evidence now proving genetic components, physical, anatomical, physiological, measurable data now illustrating that this is a genuine pathology. That disorders are diseases, that it's an issue of nomenclature and stigma and bias and not understanding that has caused all of this, weird confusion. If something seems wrong to you in some way, or if you don't understand it because outwardly it doesn't make any sense to you. Mental illness is such a touchy thing, because if you haven't experienced an aberrant mental consciousness, it's really hard to understand, how you can't rationalize through it, or reason through it, or just become educated and overcome it. There's just so much more. And the very uncomfortable thing, I think, for people about eating disorders is, anorexics tend to be very driven, very intelligent, very accomplished, perfectionists, overachievers. They're not dumb, right? These people are brilliant, and they can function above and beyond, for a while before they get too sick. Can function better than most in high pressure and in terms of accomplishment. So, yeah, in every other way, the person is sane, rational, reasonable, logical, intelligent, gifted, talented, whatever, successful, whatever, except for this little aberration, this one area of life that is abnormal and distorted and not logical and not reasonable and very difficult for people on the outside to comprehend. How is that possible? I see over and over in vlogs, come on, you're smarter than that. You know what you're doing to yourself, and why are you doing this, and why can't you just stop, and why can't you just eat a fucking cheeseburger, pick up the fork, put down the fork, whatever people's little rationalizations they think are going to help. Because you cannot, I'm always saying this, you can't reason with pathology. And one of the reasons, other mental illnesses are genuinely, there's a big stigma on mental health issues anyway, but other mental illnesses tend to affect every sphere of somebody's life outwardly. Eating disorders will as well, especially when they progress. But in the functional phases of the disease, when you're still able to maintain, a job, a career, school, whatever, you're still able to function, you're not so sick that you're debilitated yet. In every other area, we, can be totally sane, totally rational, totally reasonable, with it, on the level, we get it, right? But what happens in our downtime? What happens when life becomes still? In the quiet moments, behind closed doors, lying down in bed. The internal experience, outwardly silent, outwardly invisible, until your body reflects your pain, right? Is a moment-to-moment, breath-to-breath, terrifying, horrifying inquisition of self. Think of the worst mental abuser or verbal abuser in the world. You stupid, ugly, worthless, miserable, undeserving, ungrateful, loathsome troll who doesn't deserve to breathe and consume oxygen. These rants, just all of that is always in the back of your head. Nobody sees it, right? And, like I said, remember, we're rational, reasonable, intelligent people, right? So yeah, I think that's why it's very, mystifying and incomprehensible for a lot of people, is that except in dealing with this aberrant coping mechanism, this approach to micromanagement of food and weight to an obsessive, disordered, toxic, pathological degree, sufferers tend to be among the most intelligent and most driven and most accomplished. So I think maybe that's what's difficult for people, is that if you're so smart and you're so sane and with it in every other way, how can you not rationalize out of this? Well, because it's an illness, yeah, there's a lot of stigma about mental illness in this country anyway, and probably in the world. There are certain areas that different cultures tend to respond to negatively, and there's a whole bunch of reasons why they call that alternative health beliefs, trying to think, another one is people who are fighting drug addictions. There's a big stigma on that too, these people are filthy and bad and evil and wrong, and or chronic pain patients get a lot of stigmatic abuse because they're taking controlled substances and must just be drug-seeking drug addicts, getting back to the drug addict thing. So there are a lot of judgments placed, or nowadays, diabetes. If you're diabetic, you must just have been eating too much sugar, too much crap. Okay, well, that may be true in a lot of cases, but not necessarily. There's so many of these alternative health beliefs that judge, categorize, and evaluate wrongly so, the significance of a given illness or disorder. Illness versus disorder, I'm not going to get into again. I made a whole video about that. And also, in that video, there's a lot of clinical evidence supporting the fact that anorexia nervosa is a genuine illness and not a choice. It is a disease, and that the term disorder is like, it's being, when the DSM, current version of the DSM, they did a text revision in 2000, and the next one's coming out soon, but, in the text revision, they said, like, this term is used simply because a better name has, like, a better descriptor has not been found, but that disorders are very much diseases as well. So yeah, I find it very upsetting that people are dismissing a genuine illness as, oh, you could just, why don't you just go eat a fucking cheeseburger, or like, just eat, or just don't eat so much, or, like, it's not that simple. If it were that simple, 20% of us wouldn't ultimately die. Okay, like, if this was volitional, do you really think we bring this on ourselves? Like, this is a silent torture. This is a brutal internal war. And by the time it's outwardly discernible by physique, if it gets to that point, a lot of people die with normal BMIs, you guys, okay? Like, you don't have to be thin to be sick. It's a fact, okay? Like, there's just so many misconceptions, and at this point, to me, it really feels like willful ignorance. Like, we have the facts, we've got all of these clinical references, we've got professional organizations speaking out, advocating, raising awareness, and you still get the public going, whatever, she needs to eat a fucking cheeseburger, go get a milkshake or something. No, these are really serious illnesses, and every conscious moment, the experience, the presence, the voice, so many people articulate their eating disorder as like an entity or an individual, like a person, because the experience is so tangible in that way inside. Like, it is like there's, this presence inside of you, like there is another thought process going on, there is an independent consciousness going on, and it's this war of life or death every day, every moment, even in sleep. It is a brutal experience, and if you have more specific questions, please do ask, and stop this ridiculous judgment, because it's extremely disrespectful, dismissive, insulting, and inappropriate. Get educated, fight willful ignorance, and please have compassion. Nobody who is suffering from any disease deserves to be stigmatized, judged, rejected, or blamed. Let me know what you think, guys. Much love.